The classified documents theft case may never happen. It seems crazy considering how obvious every aspect of the case is, but it may never actually come to pass. We have been waiting now for what feels like 2 years following the indictment of Donald Trump in the theft of these documents, following the raid of Mar-a-Lago, and still there is no end in sight. There's no true beginning in sight when it comes to the case. And the reason for that is multifaceted. And I want to set out some of the reasons that this is moving at such a glacial pace, so glacial that it might simply never come to pass. So the Trump appointed judge in the case, Aileen Cannon, has yet to set a firm trial date despite holding 2 hours-long hearings with lawyers this month. So these meetings all designed to find out when we're gonna have the trial, and yet no date has actually been set. A similar thing happened, by the way, with the hush money case. They had that same sort of hearing and they set the date. And now it's coming up in just a couple of weeks. But for Aileen Cannon, nothing yet. There have been multiple motions to dismiss the case that are still pending right now, disputes over classified evidence that have spanned months, and a bitterly contested defense request to disclose the names of government witnesses remains unresolved. So it's not just that we haven't had finality on when the case is gonna begin. All of these pending things are just sort of sitting there and don't even appear to be being worked on. Before we continue with the story, we depend on members to keep on going. Don't wait, click join now on YouTube. Aileen Cannon, most recently, still seems to be entertaining a Trump team claim about his rightful possession of the documents that she had appeared openly skeptical of days earlier. So basically, they had this big hearing about the idea that under the Presidential Records Act or whatever, they're just all his property. It's an insane claim that's just not the way it works. And when they presented the evidence for that to Aileen Cannon, she initially appeared in a note that she put out to not have bought it. Then she followed that up with sort of an open-ended question, basically accepting the premise and then asking the legal teams to respond to that with some other information. So we don't really know where she is, even on the most laughable aspects of this case. And by the way, defense lawyers have filed about a half dozen motions to dismiss the case, including on grounds that the prosecution is vindictive, election interference, and that Smith's appointment as a special counsel was illegal. Or that maybe Smith isn't even his real name. There's a lot of nonsense out there. And all of that too is just sitting there waiting to be worked on. And as of right now, we should know when the trial will begin, because almost immediately after Trump was charged, way back, Aileen Cannon set the case for trial on May 20th of this year. Last fall, she signaled that she would reconsider that date on March 1st. Okay, obviously March 1st has already passed now. That hearing took place, but no replacement date was picked, even though both sides, operating on the assumption that the May 20th date is moot, have suggested that the trial could begin this summer. But that's just a suggestion coming from people who aren't responsible for picking the date. And again, no closer to actually having the date. And the arguments from legal observers as to why everything is taking so long, we'll get to those in a moment. They're even more, I think, infuriating than the status quo that we're in. But I want your thoughts, Maz. What do you think about this?
I mean, depressed. What is taking so, like, what cases are more important than these cases? Are they doing jaywalking cases? Are they busy, going after someone who put a sign outside their house where it wasn't supposed to? What's going on? These are the most important cases. This guy's running for president and he clearly has an out. And so whether you're Republican or Democrat, we as a people have a right to know, is he guilty or not as found by a jury? People keep complaining, Republicans keep complaining about the slow speed of the immigration lawyers and these people that come in seeking for asylum, and it takes a long time to look at their cases. Well, they want to speed those cases up. How about we speed up the cases of the most important court cases in the country, if not in the world? This is the most important. This should be, the fact that the Supreme Court delayed that other one is just ridiculous. And just going back real quickly as we dive deeper and deeper into this, the false equivalency that the right tries to make with Biden's classified documents or even Pence's classified documents, they then don't take the next step of saying, well, when those two were asked, they returned the documents. This guy is a criminal at heart. He obstructed justice. He hid these things. He clearly hid these. The Republicans are in bed with the Suge Knight of presidents. They're in bed with the Suge Knight of politicians. He keeps committing crimes, and they keep trying to move the goalpost to keep him out of jail. But eventually, he's going to run someone over with his car and end up in prison. So keep going, guys. Keep going.
I don't know. I don't think he drives himself, so we've thus far avoided that. But if he ever does get behind the wheel, he will certainly hit someone.
Yeah.
In any event, the most frustrating thing about this is that he did it. Like, it's not like every past president has had people on the other side that haven't liked their conduct, and there have almost always been assertions that laws were being broken. Okay, I remember George W. Bush winning re-election in 2004, and there were very strong suspicions that the voting machines might have influenced the outcome or whatever. There was never any really strong evidence of that. It was just sort of a feeling that people had. People had, like thoughts about Obama having broken a whole bunch of laws. The thing that's most frustrating about the period we're in is he did all of these things totally publicly. He says he did all of them. The question in the classified documents isn't, did he steal them? The question is, does he get to steal them? He said he took them. He said, I can take them. They're mine. I think that's crazy. I think it's theft. I don't think it should take years to adjudicate whether you can just steal these documents. Why is Aileen Cannon asking, does the presidential records cover this now? It's been months and months and months and months. It almost seems as if maybe the point is to delay, because of course she was put on, she was given this position as a judge by Donald Trump. And if she just waits long enough, then she doesn't have to rule on any of this. He could become president and he could make this one utterly disappear. That's not the case in all of these trials, but in this one, it very much is a real possibility. And so that's why it's so frustrating. And then to see, like I want to give you a couple of examples. John Fishwick, former US attorney for the Western District of Virginia, says, my sense of it is when she got reversed by the 11th Circuit in a prior issue, that made her gun shy. So she's gone at a slow pace. Kevin McGonigal, case Western Reserve University law professor, says, it may be that the judge is just afraid of making a mistake, but delaying it just puts it off. Eventually, she's gonna have to make a decision about these. Yeah, but does she? Does she? Is she gun shy, or does she see a clear advantage to waiting? Something that she has been willing to do and has not suffered any consequences for the months and months and months that have passed. What, is she in trouble? Is she gonna lose her position or anything? Why wouldn't she drag this out as a potential favor to the guy who put her on the court? I don't even think at this point, after all these different wrinkles that we've been through, is that even like a conspiracy theory? Like, you can debate individual aspects of it, but that overall she has been far too willing to allow this case to be delayed. I don't think that's questionable at this point. Any last thought on that topic?
Yeah, it's just, again, watching this in plain sight. I understand that we have a legal system. We got to take, there's all these options and all these things and all these appeals and all that. But at some point, I mean, it's just, again, I will compare it to many other countries. You have a far right, you have a dictatorship on one end, which again, on January 7th would have arrested this guy. And then you've got this, the liberal democracy on another end, which is giving him fair trials. But at some point, come on, it's just so obvious and it's so frustrating for all of us out here that, he's just the slimiest of slime bags. 100%. He just keeps, squirming his way through. And the fact that Republicans, everybody that day, January 7th, they stepped up for a second and said a couple things. That was when they had to cut him off. And if not now, if they don't have the backbone to do it now, the spine to do it now, I don't know. I really hope that the one thing that all of these court cases do is inspire others who see the danger that he is to this country and to the world to go out and vote so that he loses by a large margin. And on the day after he is, all these cases proceed full force.
Yeah, they proceed, and then he does a second coup, and maybe this time he'll get arrested after it. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.